Hi, everyone. Good morning or good evening, depending on the time zone that you are. My name is Nikos Panagiotou. I'm president of DCN Global, and among the moderators today, I would like to introduce my co-moderator, Aura. Aura is...
Hello, everybody. Hi. Sorry about that, Nikos. My network is not great, so my video is off for a few more minutes. But it's great to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Aura Kawanzarua. I am the head of DCN Africa. I'm an educator, and I also work in the tech and media space.
Thank you, Aura. It is really nice to have you all here and actually to host such a great speakers. As DCN Global, we have taken this initiative in order to discuss media literacy around the world, since it is part of the work that we are doing. Secondly, because it is an important topic of growing importance. And above all, because it signifies the challenges that we have to deal and address while in the digital and not only era. For us, this webinar, it is also part of the effort that we think that should be done in a global scale in order to connect different initiatives and actually promote awareness in the specific field. I would like, first of all, to thank the speakers for accepting the invitation, and I would like to pass the floor to them, starting by Alexandre, which has a Greek name as well, in order to introduce himself. Alexandre.
Hi, Nikos. Hi, everyone. Very nice to be here. I'm Alexandre Sayad. I'm from Brazil, and I host, I'm the co-chairing of the International Committee of the UNESCO MIL Alliance, which is the International Alliance of UNESCO on Media and Information Literacy. We use there this acronym MIL, from Media and Information Literacy. And I also, I'm the director of ZeitGeist, which is a German word for spirit of the time, but it's my organization in Brazil where I run projects in media literacy. Not only in Brazil, I'm working worldwide for 3 or 4 years, but mainly in Brazil too. So, and I host a TV show about this theme in Brazil too, and a radio show. Very nice to be with you.
Thank you, Alexandra. I would like now to pass the floor to a very good friend as well, Wallace.
Hello?
Wallace, can you hear
Wallace,
us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you. Thank you, Nikos. Is it Nikos? Nikolaos? But I think it's a great time to be here today, talking about meal. We've been at it for a while now. My name is Wallace Gichunge of the Center for Media and Information Literacy in Kenya. This is a meal think tank, I would say, non-governmental organization that deals with media and information literacy in the country, but also in the region of Africa, where I happen to represent the region at the Media Information Literacy Committee, International Steering Committee, that is chaired by Alexandre and other members. Thank you.
Thank you, Wallace. Now I would like to pass the floor to Sherri in order to introduce herself.
Thank you, Nikos. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with also many friends and colleagues on. My name is Sherri Culver, and I'm an associate professor at Temple University in Philadelphia in the United States, and also direct the Center for Media and Information Literacy there, which does projects that are related to either professional development or research or work with children all around, sort of various areas of media and information literacy. So I'll leave it at that. So we'll be each presenting a little bit later.
Thank you, Sherri. I would like now to pass the floor to Lai Cheng. Lai.
Hi. Thanks, Prof. Nichols, and thank you to DCN Global and Prof. Nichols for inviting me to this conversation. So my name is Wong, and I'm a media communication educator with more than 15 years of experience in media and corporate communication and policy advocacy. As an MIL advocate, my work at MIL for ASEAN Network focuses on developing MIL competencies of teachers and teacher educators across the Southeast Asian region to create a multiplier effect while actively advocating for media and information literacy in the public discourse and classroom settings. So currently I'm actively engaged in a MIL bootcamp project supported by the US Department of State, US Embassy Kuala Lumpur, and UNESCO MIL Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Irene, the floor now is yours.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be with you today. Thank you for the invitation from DCN Global. I'm Irene Andriopoulou. I am a global advocate myself also for nearly 20 years on media and information literacy. I am co-secretary general of the International Steering Committee of UNESCO MIL Alliance alongside Alex, Sherri, and Wallace. And I'm also a member of the European Commission expert group on disinformation through digital literacy. And here in Greece, I'm head of education research studies at ECOME, the National Center of Audiovisual Media and Communication in Athens.
Thank you, Irene. And the last, but not least, as we tend to say, Thomas.
Hi, everyone. I'm Thomas Duran from Colombia. Right now I'm in Mexico, so it's 4 a.m. and I'm at my hotel with no good lighting, so I'm sorry for that. Well, I'm the head of research from the Social Innovation Science Park in Colombia. I've been working on MIL for about 15 years, researching mostly on media competence. So right now I'm also piloting the UNESCO MIL curriculum in Colombia in 25 schools, both public and private schools. And well, this is a little about me. Hi to everyone.
Thank you, Thomas. And now we will start the webinar by passing the floor to the speakers. Each speaker will have 5 to 7 minutes at her disposal in order to present the situation of MIL in your respective country and region. We can start from Sherri. Sherri, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nikos. Can I share my screen? Is that something?
Yes.
All right, to do? Okay. I have a couple of slides, but it's quick because obviously 5 minutes is not very long, but I just wanted to keep myself on track. So I'm going to talk about the United States and sort of do that from 3 hats that I wear. So one is with Temple University and the Center for Media and Information Literacy. So that's a sort of local within the United States and also national, and then more global view through the UNESCO MIL Alliance, which you've heard a couple of folks mention. And then I also, as a creator, touching on things because I do a podcast with kids called Kids Talk Media. Let's go to the next one. So I think really what I can sum up in the United States in terms of MIL is this line that was from a book that Jim Collins wrote several years ago. And the line is "good is the enemy of great," because I think we are doing some good things, but we are not in a great position. So some things that are happening in the United States now that I would put in the positive things that are going on. There's definitely an increased adoption of MIL in state education curriculum. There's actually been 2 specific advancements just in the last few months from the state of Illinois and the state of New Jersey that have formally adopted inclusion of media literacy and MIL in their state curriculums, meaning that every teacher is going to have to do that. And that's very unusual in the United States. Second is there are more nonprofits, right? More NGOs and nonprofits that are starting in the United States that are focusing on either MIL or a component of it. So it could be news literacy or digital inclusion, but more of them are starting. The third bullet is that we know that there are, so this is a global issue in terms of the tech companies and media platforms, but many of these companies are based, at least initially, in the United States, and they are really starting to expand their MIL resources on their websites. So I'm talking about Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, many of which are owned by the same company, but they're sharing more resources, and so we are seeing that expanded. And then I also think we're just seeing overall an expansion of a recognition of MIL as being a foundational skill for digital citizenship and news literacy and cybersecurity, areas that often have been sectioned, right? And these are just brief organizations that are that have been involved. Some of these are new, some of these have been doing this for a long time. And these are just the highlights of the recent changes in New Jersey and in Illinois. There are many articles you could find about this. A differentiation about this particular advancement is that the requirement in New Jersey is the first one that is truly comprehensive. It has to start in kindergarten. It's going to have to go through all grades, and it's around media literacy. It's not just news literacy. The Illinois one, although it's wonderful that it happened, it's really just news literacy focused, and it's in high school. So it's a little bit different. But I think that, when I said in the beginning that good is the enemy of great, I think we're making progress, but there are some things that are really still persistent challenges. We have very uneven school curriculum, mainly because that is the decisions about that are made state by state. And so Illinois might pass it and New Jersey might pass something. I'm in Pennsylvania, we have nothing. So minimal teacher training across the board. So governments make decisions, but there's still no formal training for teachers that's happening. So slow moving government support in that. We see too often that MIL is being narrowcast as news literacy. So people saying that they want to do MIL, they want to do media and information literacy or media literacy, but really what they're focusing on is just news literacy. And that's a problem. We're also seeing a much more polarized political environment, and media literacy is starting to get politicized in that environment. So for years, we would say media literacy is apolitical. It does not have political point of having people question authority, question propaganda, question the information that's coming companies are making some advancements. Much of their effort is in resources and some program funding. Is shared, or the children have access to inappropriate content.
We lost Sherri. Probably there was an issue with the connection. But anyhow, yes, let us wait for a couple of minutes.
Hopefully you did not lose that, and it was just for a moment, but I was going to really, I don't want to take the risk of me having a problem there. So I really just wanted to tap in some of the challenges. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Sherri. We lost you for a couple of minutes due to connection issues. So, but I think that the presentation as well, it was very informative, as every presentation that you make as well. Let us move now to Alexander and then to Thomas in order to actually map the field of meal in Americas. Alexander.
Thank you, Nikos. Just to emphasize that I'm very glad for this invitation. To see all those faces in the morning is really good. It's good for the soul, mainly. I'll try to, I will present something here as well. As I said, I'm working in an international field for a long time. So it was hard to make this portrait of Brazil, trying to isolate Brazil from the rest of the situation of the world. I realized that what Irene said about international advocacy makes sense for all of us here, because we are always dealing with international scenery and national scenery. So just I try to select some aspects of media and information literacy, and I will not address exactly how media literacy is being taught on schools. I think in Brazil, if you take the subject media literacy for basic education, it's quite similar what Sherri said in America. Just 2 lines about it. We have some states in Brazil. We are a federation of states, of 24 states in Brazil. 2 states have some programs like mandatory from the states. The other 22 states, they don't have a regulation, but we have a minimal national curriculum that give us opportunities to implement media literacy programs in teachers training and within the curriculum for the students. But I will approach here in 5 minutes just other aspects of media literacy. Maybe it can complement what Sherri said. So as I said, I'm here with at least 2 hats. So I'll try to keep my ZeitGeist hat, which is more focused in Brazil, this presentation. So in ZeitGeist, we do research, project development, teachers training, and advocacy here in Brazil, but not only for Brazil, also some international programs as well. So I'll try to map in 1 minute the media ecology in Brazil in the matter of equity and diversity. Then I'm glad that Ramsey, my friend Ramsey, is here. I think she's a little bit tired of me because she listened to all my speeches, but I'll talk a little bit about press freedom and media literacy, which has a direct connection in Brazil. The third thing is an epistemology issue, which we need to overcome this instrumental view of technology in teachers training, basically, and understand what is media literacy at least. And the new challenges, which I think is a Brazilian challenge, but it's a global challenge too. How to incorporate AI. Here it's in Portuguese. It's IA. AI. Sorry, here it is right. In Portuguese, it's the opposite. It's artificial intelligence and lifelong learning culture, which is really far from reality here in Brazil if you compare to European Commission rules for lifelong learning. Okay, so the media ecology in Brazil is quite complex if you address media and information literacy, because for example, open TV channels like that one that I have my TV show, and Sherri was on one host of the same TV channel last month, reached 80% of the whole country. FM and AM radio still covers 80% of the country. So we have the ancient mass media is still alive and kicking in Brazil. If you say something around digital media, is really true also. But internet in schools with broadband is present only in 40% of schools, of the public schools in Brazil. Look at the difference. And we were still implementing 5G system, which I think is going to give another perspective for the digital and internet. So we have, according to the UN, Brazil reached the 60th position of internet broadband. It's really bad. And in rural areas, small cities and the North region, the situation is really worse. So we need to balance media literacy when we talk about the old media, the digital media, and what I used to say, the algorithm media. We need to prepare people to deal, to criticize all this kind of media. The last item is very unbelievable. According to one Institute of Research in Brazil, 70% of the Brazilians were informed about COVID-19 on TV, on open television. So we need to consider this aspect. So we still have the Frankfurt School aspect, which is, you can see that the rock star connecting his toilet flush to the television, which is one aspect of the TV that educations tried to deal with television in the 80s. Like this, we still have the situation dealing the television, but at the same time, we have some metaverse through the games like Fortnite and Minecraft growing up, and we are a phenomenon in esports in Brazil, but at the same time we have open TV. So it's very unequal, the access to the internet and the access to the media itself in Brazil. So it claims to media literacy to be a little bit more flexible in what it addresses. If you go to the middle of Amazon, you need to deal with radio. Forget internet. Try to deal with FM radio. So we still have that dual figure of Gutenberg and Zuckerberg situation. Yeah, the mass media in the past and the network and the digital and algorithms in the present. So in misinformation, it's, if you address media literacy in the aspect of misinformation, we have the situation of a fake news bill on Parliament, which is very controversial right now. We are discussing, is very controversial, but the Supreme Court acted to regulate social media during elections, mainly Instagram, but they jumped to WhatsApp and Facebook. It was really successful. The New York Times report that was one of the most successful action during elections to control. We had a very dirty election this year, but it was better than we thought, because we have a really strong action of the Supreme Court trying to regulate fake news on disinformation. So it was better than we thought it would be. So it brings me to the relation of press freedom and media literacy, where I think it's a symbiosis. We need to have press freedom for democracy, but for that, for people to understand what press freedom is and to have access to the more accurate information, they have to have media literacy skills. So it's something that need to exchange to each other. So in Brazil, last year, we have 230 attempts of legal attacks against journalists in Brazil. Of course, only one or two happened to be successful, but it's a lot. It's a huge number. So we are now in the red zone of Reporters Without Borders. So the red zone is for countries like Kuwait or countries that had war or something like that, and that are still not very democratic established. So we are in red zone. So we have to do one aspect of media literacy is press freedom. We're still dealing with that. And if you look to the aspect of the teachers training, we still see an instrumental view or sight for technology. I'm missing an R here, for technology. We're not looking at technology as digital, and the digital as language and culture. And this is the aspect of MIL, to look at technology. It's language, it's culture, it's expression from a generation or a part of a population. We need to understand that. We need to criticize that. We need to produce that. So we need to go back to Pierre Levy and understand la technologie d'intelligence, which means we have technology to build up intelligence, to build up language, to produce culture, and then address media literacy to that. So all the teachers training more focus on a very instrumental view of technology. How can I use the internet? How can I use an app or software or whatever? So I will jump here. And I think the last point, we are mediating by algorithms right now, everyone, every time, and even the awareness of that is far away from the agenda of media literacy in Brazil. And this aspect, I think it's worldwide. As soon as I researched, this was the theme of my master's, that I just finished and I will publish soon in Portuguese and Spanish. And this is a critical point. How to address AI in media literacy if we are not even addressing TV and mass media and the Frankfurt School. So it's a leap that we need to have. So there are several aspects of AI that we need to consider here. I will not tell about all of this. I can send you this presentation then. And the least one, we lack in Brazil a systemic view, MIL as a lifelong learning culture. Even UNESCO disclaimed that MIL is not an issue for 1 or 2 years of your basic education grade. You need to learn MIL for your entire life, because if you learn something this week, next week you're going to be out of date. And we need to consider adult learning and the elderly learning too, an aspect of citizenship and culture. So this is the reason I'm investing in this kind of thing. ZeitGeist, we have done a kind of Netflix of interviews where you can learn MIL, like download streaming interviews around society, education, political, economic, and everything. The TV show I'm presenting, I'm trying to invest in, is going to the 4th season. So I'm trying to invest in lifelong learning as the radio show that on news literacy. So those are my contacts. Sorry, I don't know if I
Thank you, Alexander.
This is my quick view.
No, thank you. It was a very thorough view of the landscape in Brazil, and I think that it will contribute a lot in the discussion that we will have immediately after. Now I would like to pass the floor to Thomas.
Well, hi to everyone. Can you see my
Yes,
third screen? Okay. Well, thank you for this invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm, as Alex was saying, I'm very happy to be with my friends. And I know so many of you, so I can talk like more freely and more comfortable about these topics, because I know that we will learn a lot from each other. So I wanted to share with you the MIL context, or the MIL development in Latin America, and then I will go to Colombia. So this first figure that you're seeing here shows how the media availability is doing in Latin America. This is a sub-index of a really complex index that we created to measure MIL readiness in countries. And as you can see, we can see that we have not really a problem of media or technology access in the region. That led us to some other things that we have to take into consideration, like an important perspective or an important approach to digital skills, rather to other skills like media or information skills that we need to develop. So we have very good ICT policy, both to implement technologies, to implement networks, and also we have started working on appropriation policies, which are very important: what to do with the technologies, how to use them, and how to make the investment on technology sustainable, not to lose all the investment that we're doing on technology, the terminals or the PCs that we're giving to students, etc. Then I wanted to show you that this is the huge picture. This is not a sub-index. This is the real MIL readiness index, and here we can see that we have very differentiated scores. And as experts' perception has increased in almost 7 percentile points from 2016 to 2019, we are now measuring 2022. We still see that we have a lot of gaps. Here we are trying to study if we have MIL on the curricula, if we have the media industry involved in activities related with MIL, if we have other stakeholders such as the social, the civil society involved in activities, organizing, etc. And also if we have the capacity to lobby MIL within the political actors and the actors that are actually building policy in the country. This shows that there are some countries that may have better opportunities to lobby MIL policy, but I want to say in the general context, we are lacking an approach, a political approach to MIL or a policy approach. Then I wanted to tell you that in Colombia, we're currently testing this curriculum. This is the UNESCO MIL curriculum for educators. And within this project, we have like measured other dimensions that may be important to this discussion. The first, as you can see here in this word cloud, I'm sorry it's in Spanish, but we speak Spanish in Colombia, so I cannot change it to English. But you can see here what teachers, about 800 teachers, think MIL is about. And this is very representative because this is a survey that was applied to schools from the public sector, from private schools also. So they think MIL is to use videos in the classroom, maybe to do some activities, some games or gamification, as we said, interactivity or interaction. It appears also, it appears ICT. I thought that ICT was going to be like a huge word repeating, but it's not that huge. It's mostly videos and other kind of tools. So they are thinking MIL has to do with using digital resources in schools. As you can see, I have this first figure shows where the schools are located. So it's very representative from Colombia. We have the largest city, that is Bogota, and then we have some departments all around the country with teachers that have been surveyed. And the figure that you can see in the right of your screens, which I think is the most important of the figures I will show you today, is that we have crossed all the learning outcomes that UNESCO gives. So it's about 220 learning outcomes on MIL, and we crossed that with the learning outcomes of these schools. And we realized that almost 70% of these learning outcomes are present in the actual curriculum they are teaching. And it's present in the yellow subjects that you can see here that are social sciences, Spanish, or it will be language if you're in another country, and technology and communication. So we have like a cross-curricular approach to MIL. For me, this is a good news because there are no subjects on MIL, but we have the learning outcomes in the different curricula that we analyzed. Well, that for the pilot. Now I wanted to show you that to talk about MIL in a specific region or in a specific country, we have to bear in mind a lot of things. Here I will show you the snapshot of Colombia. So we have a 74% penetration rate of the internet, which is not great, but we have now 74%. We were in about the penetration of 55% 10 years ago, so it's an increase. We have all the cities and municipalities and departments connected, but we still have a very big digital divide. This that says Índice de Brecha Digital is digital divide, and it is measured in a scale from 0 to 1, meaning that 1 is the better and 0 is the worst. So we have 0.41. That means, in other words, that we still lack 59% to be okay. But what I see here, that is the attention point that I want to do, is that it is not in all the country. If you see the figure in the right of your screens, you will see that Bogota, that is the first in the line, has a, no, I say it, I told it wrong. 1 is the worst, 0 is the best. Sorry. So Bogota has a divide of 0.25. So it means that we have really not, we don't have problems with technology in the largest cities. But when you see to the bottom of the table, you can see that Bichada, Baupés, all the little cities, towns, and other territories, more rural territories, they have a great digital divide. So it's a problem we have. And I can show you that with these other statistics that I prepared. So we have an overall access of internet in schools of 78%. But when you see that in the public schools, it's just 70%. So there's a gap between private schools and public schools, and 95% of our students are from public schools. We have just a 50% of internet use in the rural schools. So we have 1 of every 2 students do not have internet in the countryside of Colombia. And I have some other indicators that were gathering during the pandemic on how we addressed the pedagogical challenges we had when we had to stay at home. So you can see that we had 80% of the strategies were on paper, were not digital strategies. We had to send PDF, we had to send books because we had no connection. This is the reality. They had a use of 63% of apps, strategies through apps, which dropped down to 52 when it was about rural schools. And you can see the other indicators that say that almost the same. We had to use paper solutions and not digital solutions to address the pandemic. This means that in Colombia, we have lost at least 1.5 years in the schooling process, or that's what experts are saying. And these 2 last slides, I wanted to show that we are currently finding how to measure MIL in the country, and this we can do it in every country. These are the standardized tests that we run when our students finish the secondary school. And you can see that critical reading and mathematics, the 2 first sets of data in the 2 first figures that you see left to right, are the highest scores, the higher scores that they had. So it's saying that our schools are somehow trying to measure if we are delivering competences related with critical learning, critical understanding, and critical reading. But the problem is that when you cross this data with the private schools, you will see that private schools are like 20% up in the final results. So it's not a great result. But as they are standardized tests, and you all have these standardized tests in your countries, like PISA or TALIS and other tests, you can correlate the different results of the different schooling levels to see if, for example, when students graduate from school and pass through the higher education, if they have increased their critical reading abilities or their mathematical or logical abilities. And this is the sad snapshot. We have found that there's a positive correlation with the scores they have in the test run when you finish the secondary and the test run when you finish the university. So in other words, it means that going through higher education doesn't increase the critical reading capacities in people. And this is very representative. These tests have been presented by all students in Colombia when they finish their secondary school, and by all students in Colombia when they finish their careers in public or private universities. So this is like the snapshot in Colombia. Thank you very much, Nikos, and all the audience.
Thank you so much, Thomas. So I'd like to call on Wallace. Wallace, if you could also share your presentation, and then after Wallace will come Irene. So Irene, you can get ready so long. Thanks, Wallace. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Confirm you can hear me, please.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I do not have a presentation. Mine is a bit more qualitative. It's just a point overview of what's happening in Africa, what's happening in Kenya. So I would want to say that today is not like 7-8 years ago when we started on this particular topic on media information literacy in Africa. As usual, I think I would want to say that we were the last.
This is a problem of digital online.
When we got on board, you are like
the meeting, and I put the same.
Someone is speaking, Mr. Yunusa.
All right, sorry about that. I think he's been muted.
No problem.
Sorry.
I'm saying this is a problem of digital meetings, but it's not a problem as such. I think we're living with it. So I was saying that when we started off, some of us were like the pioneers of media information literacy in Africa 7-8 years ago. Today, we are some among so many others. And I would want to say that MIL has been shrouded on all corners of the continent, in the sense that we have seen a burst of activities all across the continent, from South Africa to Eastern, Central, Northern, but the MENA region, and also West Africa. For a good deal, I think I would want to say that we have also been blessed to host the last two global media information literacy conferences. One was held last year in South Africa. The other one was held across the region in West Africa. These are very important conversations to host, and I think it's a great privilege. This was done during my tenure at the ISC committee. What I can say is that we have seen this has catalyzed a lot of activities, and they brought together so many stakeholders from the academia, from the civil society, from the education, from media that are now engaged in media information literacy in their various ways. So I would want to say that in Africa, there is media information literacy that's taking place. And our next course of action is advocacy for it now to be Africanized, because that is now the leading term. My view has always been that media information literacy, like many other ideas, is a global concept, but it has very local contexts. So what is the local context for Kenya, for example? What's the local context for South Africa? What's the local context for Zimbabwe, where Aura is situated? Because we have big problems. We want to use media information literacy to solve our unique problems, not to just engage in a conversation. So in this regard, my argument in the last Global Media Literacy Conference was that we have already some blueprints for Africa. For example, the Agenda 2063. It has some aspirations that Africa intends to achieve by the year 2063 rather. Now, because all those speak to actions that media information literacy can help catalyze, achieve. Things like the cities, things like the environment, conservation and climate change, things like aspiration for peace and security, entrenchment of democracy and the rule of law, freedom of expression and media for that matter. All those kind of areas. Media information literacy plays a very big role in that. So as you can see already, we have a blueprint where we can contextualize our media information literacy and achieve our African goals, even as we engage with the global actors. When we come back to Kenya, I'm privileged that to have been a pioneer on this matter. And we have had very good partners, including UNESCO, who have been holding our hand on this matter for the longest. We began by getting some youths on board youth organizations that we trained on media information literacy, and some of whom have mainstreamed media information literacy in their activities. So we can see the catalytic effect as well across the country, because some of these meal activities are taking place within the activities of the youth groups that were trained. And this one has been taken up by other groups as we go on with other meal activities. The next thing I would say is that universities are now also doing their own curriculum. We were able to have at least 2 universities mainstream media information literacy across all levels, from undergraduate to PhD on media information literacy. I have in mind the University of Rongo in the western part of the country, and we are in talks with the other main pioneer universities in Kenya so that they can also mainstream media information literacy as part of a critical training for journalists today. The next thing that we did in Kenya was development of a media information literacy curriculum, adaptation of the UNESCO one to local context in conjunction with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. That one was a critical assignment in my view, because we were among the first countries in the world to adopt that particular curriculum. In Kenya, we had put on hold teacher training for about 2 or 3 years. I think it has now resumed. So that gave us a leeway to kind of give some guidance on some of the things that they are called emerging areas, emerging knowledge areas that need to be incorporated in the training. And of course, you know that the biggest change maker in our modern world is the teacher, because he deals with the entire population from when people are young, you catch them young. And if you're able to mainstream media information literacy in the curriculum, you're able to catch up the entire generation going forward. So that is very important. And finally, we are able to train also some people, actors in the media space, including journalists, including content creators, because some of them are not really journalists, but they are in the media space, and also the regulators, so that we speak in one voice. And this is especially on matters on misinformation and disinformation, which came to the fore as a result of COVID-19. So basically, that is an overview of what's happening on media information literacy. And just the other day, I think yesterday, so recently, I received an email from the Media Council of Kenya that I'm supposed to join them now to actually concretize a conversation that we began some time back on developing a policy for the country. So we have quite a large mandate that speaks to all the issues that I've just discussed, including the curriculum, resourcing, media information literacy, so that actors can be able to know where and which areas to focus on. So essentially, I would say that yes, it's not where we were. Today, we are very good and doing, I think, looking back, we would say that media information literacy is now in Africa, in Kenya, in all countries that I know of, it is actually a great thematic area and has very competent actors doing various things towards the realization of the UNESCO aspiration for media literacy for all by all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wallace. And it's true, media information literacy is a global concept, but with many local contexts. So thank you so much for bringing the African context into the fore. We're now going to move over to Greece, and we're with Irene, who's going to share her perspective on MIL.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you see my screen? Okay. So it is interesting to see that there is a concentrated effort in Kenya, as well as said about the Media Council dealing with implementing media literacy in the curriculum, because we have some crossing paths also here in Greece. I would like to start by saying that media and information literacy became a trending topic. It was very high in the public discourse of the policy agenda during the pandemic. And this was due to the fact that it was offered as a viable solution for e-learning, remote school learning, e-coaching. Everybody was home working at that time, so everybody was thinking about how to use media platforms and resources in school or at home. So the main media literacy actors in Greece, we can find it also, primarily as an academic field of study in mass media faculties and communications, and also in pedagogical faculties. The pedagogical faculties, excuse me, sorry, there is some background noise. The pedagogical faculties deal with the creative aspect of it, whereas the journalism and media and mass media faculties deal with media democracy, disinformation, and news literacy. Also, we can find it within the lifelong learning context, such as the work that is being implemented by ECOME, the National Center of Audiovisual Media. It's a public organization supervised by the Ministry of Digital Governments. It is also present in the creative industry. That being said, it refers to kids' film festivals as film literacy and learning audiovisual language in the classroom. Also in typical education, I'll refer in more detail later. And civil society, many projects that have a grassroots approach rather than a bottom-up to down approach. Also in private sector, each day we come across new projects that deal with media literacy, such as the Educability Project, which is a 5 countries project on massive open online courses addressed to librarians and media and information literacy practitioners in general. So this is available in English and soon in Greek. That being said, media literacy is not present in the regulatory bodies, or in broadcasters field. I mean, although we have still a mass coverage of the broadcasters all over the country, there is very little mention to media and information literacy, only as a form of some one-day events, some awareness campaigns during the Global Emali Week, but very, very few steps on that sector. So these are the key action fields that also ECOME we follow the UNESCO approach, and we believe that it should be implemented, should start from a very early preschool age, and typical education, lifelong learning context, MIL for journalists. It is a very specific target group as senior citizens and other social groups. And MIL for citizens, of course, as part of cultivating digital citizenship skills. So as I said, at ECOME, we have a 3-tier approach that follows the UNESCO MIL approach. This is the definition that we adopt and try to implement also in the Greek context: the skills to access, critically evaluate, and creatively express in all media information environments towards active citizenship skills for resilient and open government societies. For ECOME, it is associated to basic skills, the access, the technical skills, the ICT skills, as they used to say it in the past, to call it, the advanced skills, the cognitive skills, the critical analysis of media content and platforms, and vocational skills that has to do with boosting MIL skills for young media professionals. In 2018, we issued a white paper on media and information literacy, which was a policy paper to locate MIL in the Greek context after some years of absence of a national organization. So we embraced media and information literacy as part of our 3rd pillar, the educate pillar. And a few things about how media literacy is met in typical education. It is not yet met as autonomous object of study, but hopefully we're closely getting there. Maybe let's get back in a decade from now. So it is mainly met cross-curricularly as an interdisciplinary subject of study within ad hoc school-specific projects. We can find projects on media literacy, news literacy, digital literacy, film education literacy. We have a wide range of projects of how to use visual literacy and screen in order to talk about issues, be it disinformation or critical citizens. In 2021, there was this new outlet in the typical education, the platform 21 Plus Skills Labs, where we have 4 thematic circles that can be implemented in the school curriculum. There are some hours allocated for that within the week. And within these thematic circles, you can find media literacy and gaming literacy and data literacy, digital literacy under ICT skills. So there are some projects that can be implemented in these 4 thematic circles. However, there is not specific per se design curriculum dealing with its issues. And this is where ECOME comes into the picture and other organizations that we try to produce open educational resources and help teachers and educators how to talk about these issues in school. So currently, we have plethora of media resources talking about media information literacy produced outside the curriculum, but they can be used inside the curriculum. There are no metrics available for that school subject. But I said the main topics are creativity, user-generated content, critical creative skills, civic skills, and less on disinformation, but more projects are gradually being produced on that specific field of study. So a few things about ECOME. We are embracing media information literacy as an umbrella object to follow MIL ecology of UNESCO. So we're producing open educational resources, publications in cooperation with public or European or global stakeholders. We also help towards placing a sustainable policy agenda on media literacy in the European Commission and UNESCO. And we have a strong presence in school through our school contests that are focused on learn by doing, on media literacy, on gaming, on visual culture, digital skills, gaming and archives. So this is a way to have students familiarized with MIL through multiple and interdisciplinary approach. This is just an overview of our international network here at ECOME. Our most prominent achievement that we're very proud this far is the partnership with UNESCO, where we are coordinating the subchapter, the Mediterranean Group, where we try to bring together over 55 members from across the Mediterranean, across 11 Mediterranean countries. And within that, we're working on 5 task forces on research, on promotion, on MIL and typical education, creative industries. We have conducted 8 MIL webinar series during the pandemic and afterwards. And this is just the map of the Mediterranean countries that are part. We have members from academia, from regulatory authorities, from national institutions, from ministries and civic organizations. Just an overview. Just an overview of the topics addressed through the MIL webinar series. We have reached participation from over 41 countries all over the globe because they were conducted in English. Now, this is our newest project for 2022-2023. This is a global publication focusing on what on media and information literacy in the post-pandemic era, the challenges and the trends on a global scale. As Simon said, that we approach MIL as a global paradigm, but with local roots. So we want want to see how these were combined, and you can see the topics. So we're looking for contributions not only from the Mediterranean in English, but from all over the globe. We want your abstracts from until December 31st, and the article submission by March 30, 2023. And please circulate. I will put also the link on the chat. So a few things about the EU mobility. As member of the expert group on disinformation, there was a lot of mobility also in 2021 on EU, on e-twinning, which is the school network in the European Commission, where the thematic was media literacy and disinformation. Also, these days it is under implementation, the Audiovisual Media Service Directive, which is the EU regulation on media literacy. So each country have to submit the report by December 20 to the European Commission. What has happened in terms of MIL? This is kind of binding for the member states. It is also implemented in Greek regulation. And a very recent development, the 2022 Code of Practice on Disinformation was adopted recently, engaging binding sort of way the major online platforms on placing MIL high in their agenda in the advertising. It is addressed to the actors in the advertising industry, fact checkers, research and civil organizations to enforce a strengthened code of practice on disinformation. So there is a renewed trust towards traditional media news and journalism through these initiatives. And the most recent also initiative that are the guidelines for educators produced in September 2022 by the European Commission. This is a very useful resource on how to combat disinformation in the classroom, available in many languages in the member states. So you can find practical tips, learning tips, how to talk about disinformation in the classroom, how to enforce activity plans, specific activity plans, a glossary to begin with, a glossary with all the terminology associated. They are addressed to educators, to teachers, and it is also accompanied with a policy report, a national European Commission policy report, international, but with case studies from the national member states. So all the policy stakeholders should have a look at it. It is very easy, free to download, and please, I urge you to use it in your national context. I would like to close saying that the post-pandemic wise, it is a time to rethink critically and act proactively through this hybrid economy of the digital knowledge model and explore new media literacy challenges such as AI, as Alex also mentioned. The point is, challenge has always been reaching like concentric circles, a media information literacy consensus for all aspects of our digital-oriented life, and we're getting there faster and better than we thought. And we have to thank UNESCO over 40 years of impactful work and advocacy on that. Thank you very much for your time. I remain at your disposal for any Q&As.
Irene, thank you so much for the detailed presentation. And to bring us full circle and help us finalize and put the final stroke on our masterpiece, our painting of what does media and information literacy look like globally, we have Lai Cheng Wong. And Lai, if you could please share your perspective and bring us home on this topic.
All right, thank you, Aura. Are you on my screen?
Yes, ma'am,
Right.
we can see you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, to all esteemed speakers, moderators, and participants joining us from all around the world. Thank you for having me in this very important discussion. My name is Wong, and I'm from the ASEAN MIL Network, and I'm based in Penang, Malaysia. So just allow me to share the outline of my presentation today. So I'll walk you through the status of MIL in the ASEAN member countries. And since I'm currently based in Malaysia, I will also share a little bit about my perspective of MIL in the Malaysian context and what are the role of the key actors in ASEAN region in addressing the disinformation issues in our region, and what are the challenges we face in among the ASEAN member states in this region and what can be done. All right. So, of course, let me start my sharing today by sharing a quote by a French philosopher, Michel Foucault, who said, "My point is not that everything is bad, but that everything is dangerous," which is not exactly the same as bad. If everything is dangerous, then we always have something to do. So the COVID pandemic has caused disruptions to our education system and has brought about a digital transformation and challenges to teachers. Concerns is growing about the spread of fake news, deepfakes, false information, and it poses a lot of risk, particularly in our public health system and democracy system, as well as the safety and well-being of our citizens. So to us in ASEAN, teachers not only play a role in knowledge transfer nowadays, but also teaching our kids to critically evaluate information, process verification, and responsible use of media. So today, MIL has become, I think I agree with most of the speakers earlier, that it has become a very essential role in participation in society as a citizen. All right. So just to bring you through in ASEAN, all right, rising cases of misinformation and disinformation and growing access to the internet and social media has led governments and scholars across the ASEAN region to rethink policies to counter media misinformation in the ASEAN member countries, which cover 10 countries here: Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and of course, Indonesia. So what about the status of MIL in the ASEAN region? Oh, I think I'm blocking. Okay. So for your information, teaching citizens in ASEAN how to critically evaluate information and media content, it's rather very challenging for us in ASEAN because in most of the countries in ASEAN regions, we don't have a MIL subject in the ASEAN region. And in the Philippines, conversation about specific social issues are discouraged, even in Malaysia, by the country's divisive political environment. So another challenge for us here is we're lack of teacher training across the region. Or of course, when as an MIL advocate, when we run MIL teacher webinar series for the teachers, many of them were actually very eager to join, and in fact they wanted to know more about what is exactly MIL. So I'll walk you through on the status of MIL in our ASEAN region, for example in Malaysia, where I'm currently based at. All right, so in Malaysia context, MIL still remains a technical concept. So we in Malaysia, we focus most of our teaching on the aspects of information technology, which are more, they deem as much more important, that can help to develop a strong foundation among students and that can help the country boost the digital economy. However, the modules does not emphasize a lot in calculating critical thinking skills. Whereby in the Philippines, they have MIL as a core course in the senior high school curriculum. However, they have been offering MIL subjects in school since 2017. However, MIL has not been integrated into the curriculum of teacher education institution, meaning teachers are being asked to teach MIL, but they are not being trained and exposed to this training. All right. So for Thailand, following UNESCO's promotion on MIL and its dialogue with the Ministry of Education since 2003, media literacy was, the Thai government was trying to incorporate them into the primary and school institution, including the higher education institution. However, due to the lack of educators and in terms of expertise, as well as trainings given to the teachers, so they have to pull back this plan, and that hinders the implementation of effective MIL lessons in school. Another challenge is also resources and language, because as you know, in Thailand, most of the language they use are in Thai language. So a lot of MIL resources are actually available in English language. All right, so language barrier is also one very main issues that hinders the implementation of MIL in Thailand. Like recently, I actually approached the ministry that I wanted to train teachers in MIL, particularly for Thai teachers. But one of the biggest challenge that I received was, hey, Wong, the ministry spoke to me and they said that, would you be able to translate the training into Thai language? Or probably would you be able to get a translator to help the teachers and something like that? All right. So of course, for Indonesia, all right, so formal education institution focus a lot on the access element and limited to technical aspects, but not content. So of course, case of Indonesia is very much likely in Malaysia that focuses a lot on ICT training. But however, there's a lot of actually MIL activities that has been carried out by civil societies in Indonesia. They run a lot of awareness raising workshops and training, fact checking. Like I think one of my member colleagues from Indonesia is here today, Mafindo. They have been doing a lot of trainings, capacity building activities for citizens and teachers as well. All right. So, but however, it's not in MIL is still not a subject being taught in schools. So I'll walk you through very quickly for the context of Malaysia again. As I said earlier, in Malaysia, schools focus on curriculums, technical skills rather than the learning skills required for the 21st century students. All right. So in fact, in 1996, the government launched this National Information and Technological Council to provide foundational framework for the utilization of ICT, which focus on learning how to use internet, search for information, programming and coding, but not very much on media and information literacy, like how do you find accurate information on the internet and all that. So again, the same issue like the other countries in the ASEAN region, Malaysia's a lack of trained teachers with media and information literacy backgrounds. All right. They also noted that teachers should be adept at using multiple forms of communications like computer programs and networks, which will determine their ability to produce educated and well-informed students. So again, in the Malaysia context, government recognized the importance of information literacy for primary students, and they started the Malaysian Smart School program across the nation, but on how to process information. But up to today, we still focus a lot more on the technical aspect of ICT. So I'll walk you through. So how does, in ASEAN context, how do we address disinformation issues? All right, we acknowledge the importance of MIL. However, countries in ASEAN, we do not have an effective framework, all right, to implement MIL. So efforts are underway to educate and empower citizens to improve their MIL skills and ability to access and identify accurate, inaccurate, and misleading information. So like Malaysia, we have this civil society organizations called Klik Dengan Bijak, Click Wisely, Sebenarnya.my, Malaysia ICT volunteers that provides communication training, help them to raise awareness on safer use of internet. Whereby in the Philippines, we have Bayan Mo, iPetrol Mo, like Your Town, Your Petrol. Patrol basically provides citizens with the knowledge on citizen journalism and news literacy training, promotes healthier conversation online. These are some of the efforts by the civil society organizations in the ASEAN region. So recently, the ASEAN Secretariat actually launched this TOT, Training of Trainers, book that aims to build capacity of secondary school teachers and tutors, lecturers to empower students to detect this information and resist its influence. The goal is to equip these educators with the resources and tools they need to empower young people in ASEAN to minimize the spread of this information. But however, the training toolkits are mainly more catered for the universities and college students. So moving next, what are the challenges that I would like to highlight in the ASEAN context? I think I concur with Sherri's point earlier. We're lack in Southeast Asia, we're lack of training and continuous training plan for teachers. Just like the context in Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines, teachers have been called to teach the subject, but there's no proper trainings, and science, mathematics, geography teachers have been, besides teaching science subject, they've been called to teach MIL subjects as well. So it's rather a challenge. So government agencies, academic, civil societies, and other stakeholders are introducing different initiatives. Why I say that? Because for the context of Malaysia, we have civil societies are trying to promote media literacy, but they are journalists. They are communication media people. But at the same time, the teachers, they are not working very closely with the teachers. So I believe that we have to sort of like connect the dots together, get people from the education industry and people from the media and journalism industry to sit together to come up with a comprehensive framework on how we can actually integrate these MIL elements into the school curriculum. And of course, lack of impact assessment, because we need to understand the teachers' knowledge, abilities, competencies, and their readiness in teaching this subject. Lack of available teaching resources that teacher can use as a good reference materials, because MIL is rather new. When I did a survey, I asked the teacher, hey, why do you want to attend the webinar? They told me that because I want to learn something AI, I want to learn something training, explore something related to new technology, but the understanding, the level of understanding is not there. And for the context of Thailand, language is also an issue. So different country has different understanding and expectation of MIL in the ASEAN region. So moving next, what can be done? All right, what can be done? Of course, with all these challenges, all right, how can we move forward? Of course, we need to increase investments on teacher capacity building in MIL by creating MIL multipliers and all that. So that is something that MIL for ASEAN Network, this is something that we've been advocating for. We have to set up national regional working group. We need to cooperate on trainings, learn from experts. We need to get the media, journalism experts, communication experts to work together with teachers on how we can actually integrate the MIL element into a maths classroom or a science classroom. When we create MIL curriculums, we need to get teachers as co-creators. We have to involve them, put them into the table, all right, get them sit down together and develop the curriculum. We need to create a coalition between the digital and media agencies as well. And of course, at the end of the day, I highlight this point again. The assessment is very important. I think one of the speaker, Thomas, mentioned earlier on the assessment of teachers, readiness, capabilities and challenges, and what are the support that teacher needed for them to implement MIL in the classroom is equally important as well. And with that, that's all from me. And thank you for having me for today's conversation. And feel free to reach out to us at MIL for ASEAN Network. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wang. That was really, really great and really detailed. I'm seeing there's a lot also happening in the group, in the chat. So We have Aribo Sasmito from Indonesia. I'm sorry, I know I probably said that wrong. I'm really sorry. We also have Irene, who's also shared her link to the Economic Call for articles. So please do have a look in the chat and also keep up on what's going there. So we are going to move forward in the program, also in the interest of time, and move on to our Q&A session. Before we go too far, Nikos, I would like to know your thoughts, maybe a summary of what everyone has said, and maybe map the way for us for our Q&A.
Thank you, Aura. I would like to pass the floor to Marisela in order to introduce herself as well from the other moderators, and then we can continue the discussion. Marisela.
So thank you, Nico, and good morning, good afternoon, good night to everyone. Good evening, I'm sorry. I'm Marisela Zamora from Costa Rica, and I'm working in the Americas for this year. So nice to meet you all.
Great. Thank you, Marisela, as well. So taking up the question from Aura, I think that what it is the most challenging element, it is that we have found many similarities that are shared across the regions. And I think that this is an important topic where we can actually build upon the joint efforts in order to promote media literacy across the globe. And I think, and my question to the speakers, it is that how do you see, or do you see any possibilities of doing so? What are the challenges that we have to overcome in order actually to build upon the different experiences, but on the same time on the same needs? Thank you.
I think anyone can take that up, but I have a habit of picking on people because I'm a teacher. So, okay, Wallace, it's your turn.
Yes, because I need to go somewhere. Thank you so much. I think I'm happy that there's so much effort on meal across the world, and also you can see that media information literacy is actually active and has come up with a network of people who know each other. Probably we have worked on many other activities together, and today this has brought us together. So it's as part of these discussions. So for me, I think this is a plus that the family for meal and is multiplying across the globe, and you can see the fruits, as I mentioned. Now, in terms of challenges, I think some of them have been mentioned by some of the speakers before me. The first of all is the multifaceted nature of media information literacy and the numerous actors that need to push this and that agenda. So sometimes to create harmony in all those activities becomes a tall order. And of course, there's one time I was at the African Union, and then someone asked me, where do we put this meal in a shelf? It was difficult to answer because the educationists would want to claim it, the journalists and the media people would want to claim it, the civil society would want to claim it. So I say that meal is for everybody. I don't think it needs a shelf because everyone should create space for it. So that multifaceted nature of meal, as you can see, is one of the big challenges. The other challenge has been a lot, especially in Africa, has been resourcing. I think in terms of resourcing ideas, we rely more on the West, on our side, and sometimes these ideas, they come and then they're implemented in Africa to suit a certain objective. I want to mention some of the things that have been moved in, but I think for me, sometimes we end up coming up with the solutions that are not necessarily very contextualized, like I mentioned before. So the resourcing aspect of it. So I want to imagine that when governments are taking up meal policies, for example, and then providing budgetary resources from within to implement media information literacy, that is when we shall be having some tangible results or outcomes. Otherwise, if we rely so much on what is coming from outside, then we'll be able to meet the objectives of those donors, but then not the donors, not the outcomes that we would desire for our people. So that's what I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Wallace. Sherri? I think, Sherri, especially in your context with children, I think if you could also, because that's I think a generally touchy topic. Yeah.
Yeah, and let me just sort of pre-apologize before we start, because I'm having a lot of connectivity issues this evening, so hopefully I will not get disconnected. Yeah, well, one thing I thought of while Wallace was responding, and then I'll touch on children, is that something that could help all of us, I feel like, is at the most basic level, is a publicity campaign that would have some sort of template that could be adaptable from country to country. I think that, you know, at the core, getting high-level officials to fully understand the need for media literacy or MIL education, still a core element. And and I forget who else mentioned, Irene, that it is vitally important that media literacy education starts at the absolute earliest age and goes all through educational years. I'm teaching at a university level. It's amazing how many students show up in a university classroom and have had zero introduction to critical thinking about media at all, and they're in college, and that's awful. So we simply do not live in a universe where we can use and media influence. It's got to happen from the minute they put a tablet in their hands, which is, you know, when they're 6 months old. And there are ways to scaffold that learning so that it, and we've simply got to sort of work together to figure out how to let people know that this is what is important. I feel like we're each spinning really hard to make progress, but without financial support to do some of these things, it's very difficult.
Okay. Does anyone want to add on to that before I, does any of the speakers want to add on to that before I take it a bit further?
There's a situation also, it's to pop the bubbles. I always insist on that we have a strategic challenge, which is to implement high level and teachers training curriculum everywhere, MIL practices and elements in the curriculum, but also to pop the bubble for the general public. What is MIL? What is so important? What's going to change your life? And make a kind of a network of confidence or confidentiality on MIL, saying this is one very important solution for the war of narratives that we are living in, for the skills that we need to be citizen in the current time. So, but we need to talk to the general public, and this is very important. How to talk to MIL, to the general public, to understand this is important. And maybe it's not talking about MIL, but introducing MIL issues with other cover to people to understand that is important. This is the point I'd like to underline. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandre.
Something?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a point as well, because for the ASEAN context, getting the citizens to truly understand what is an MIL and why is it so important in your daily lives are very important. This is something that much effort are needed in Southeast Asia region. And at the same time, when just now I mentioned about capacity building for teachers and educators, there's none, basically very rare. So and I truly believe that the training has to be continuous, because like us advocates, we can be like running MIL webinars like a few months once, but the training has to be continuous for the teachers. So it cannot be like, okay, in a year we run like 2 to 3 training, then after that we assume teachers have a basic understanding of the whole perspectives of MIL. No, so it has to be really consistent. Probably like certification, get them to be MIL certified trainers or something. That is also something important in Asia context. Thank you.
And I think globally as well, because the truth is MIL is not, it's not stagnant. It evolves with technology, and technology evolves incredibly fast. So what could have been relevant in terms of MIL education last year is irrelevant probably in the next 3 years, So I think it's impossible to say we figured it out and this is how we're going to teach MIL and this is how we're going to educate. I think it's constantly going to change. And I think with the different regions as well, because the different contexts have different influences, right? Because culture plays a part. Yeah, culture plays a part. Economics play a part in how information is spread. So I think you're quite right in that. It has to be continuous, especially when you are dealing with educators and teachers. Maricela, I'm going to pull on you because you've been nodding and smiling really like enthusiastically. I feel like you have something to say. So please share your thoughts.
Thank you, Aura. And I was resonating a lot with Alex said and how we can make this so easy to teach and so easy and regular to learn for not only for kids, for teenagers, but for people from all ages, because this is a issue that that affect us all. So in this sense, I would like to ask Alex and the other speakers too, how the educational learning that influences MIL education performance in your region. So thinking about this basic education and thinking about during the pandemic and now that we're not out of the pandemic, but getting out of it. So Alex, can you tell us a little bit more of that and then the others, of course?
Yes, thank you, Maricela. This is a very nice question because as a non-developed country, we have other challenges in education. I wouldn't say before MIL, I would say at the same time of MIL, because the things needs to be improved at the same time, yes. But if you think about the pandemic time, that left a lot of students behind because mainly on lack of digital readiness. There is a research of the World Bank and UNESCO here in South America that puts Colombia, Brazil, and Dominican Republic at the bottom of the list of the students didn't learn properly during the pandemic, and they need to run. Now they need to recompose the learn that they lost during the pandemic time because of lack of digital readiness. So in this sense, we have even infrastructure problems within education, which put us behind too. So I would suggest everyone here to read the Portland Institute Readiness Index that was just released. But it's a rank of all the countries of the digital readiness of all countries. It's a rank. It's a very rich report that it's very important for MIL. How ready is your country digitally and technologically and educationally to implement MIL? So, for example, I didn't bring it here, Maricela, but I have a graphic of students that cannot learn, they cannot read and write properly in their age. They are delayed in reading and writing. So how can we start with that and then start to express themselves, to teach themselves to express during the digital media? I think it's simultaneously, but we have other gaps to cover as well. That's what I meant. And Uruguay, Uruguay and probably Chile are on the top of this research of BID and UNESCO in Latin America that was made in the first year of the pandemic time. So we were still in the pandemic and they closed this research for the first year. It's very interesting. And it's based on Latin America and the Caribbean.
So Alex, we have exactly the same problem here. So we do have the same educational gaps, especially with younger generations, that they don't know a lot of math, they don't know how to write, they don't know how to read like we usually do at that age. So it's like we have to catch up with that, and also thinking about new methods about that. So sorry, I just wanted to say that. I don't know if any other speaker wants to add a little bit of that and those challenges that we're facing.
Can I just jump in there? Because I think, I was going to say, I don't think we can separate them. Like, I think that's part of our problem, is that if we look at them as we have to teach them how to read and write, and then we have to teach them how to be good critical thinkers in the media that they consume, that to teachers, that feels like an extra burden of extra things they have to do, when those things are completely intertwined. And if we're books, that was media too. And so those, we have to think about those. We have to encourage teachers to think about those things together, so that they are in their education, teachers are then in the classroom, the ability to learn how to read and write and use media and all that is totally intertwined as literacy.
Anyone else? As we end up at the end of this webinar, I would like actually to have some final thoughts from each of our speakers, and then to wrap up this very interesting webinar. Let's start from Lai Cheng.
Right, thanks, Prof. Nichols. I think thank you very much for having me in this session. So, of course, the speakers have actually highlighted some of the challenges and all that. So as we move forward, I truly believe that getting citizens educated with what is exactly MIL and the continuous training plans for teachers are equally important, since I'm working with the teachers in ASEAN. And of course, since technology is constantly improving, so it has to be consistent. And at the same time, for us to bring MIL forward, we have to connect the dots. So getting people from the education institutions, teachers, and people from the media and communication industries, we have to sit together, connect the dots, put them together on the same table. And I think with that, we will be able to move forward. So thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Wallace?
Thank you, Professor, and all the participants and my fellow panelists and the other facilitators. These are very important discussions for me. It's a special topic for us, those who are involved in media information literacy for a while now, and we intend to continue with the same. To me, I think I would want to thank DNC Global and everybody who participated, because we are able to exchange ideas. Like I mentioned, in Kenya, we are starting on the policy and some other issues, and I can see that there's a lot to learn from what is happening on the ground in other places who have made better strides than us. So these kind of conversations are important, and I hope I'm looking forward to the next discussion, probably after we have achieved a few other things that we can share with the rest of the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherri.
Thank you, Nikos, for inviting me. I think parting, I would just say to everyone, I know that some of the issues we've raised are really daunting, and it can seem very discouraging to try to deal with some of these, but progress, you know, please don't get discouraged, because the progress is really important. And I know I speak for probably all the panelists in saying that we would each be open to further conversation and helping in any way that we can, because sometimes you just, you know, you need a little encouragement to push through. And it's really the work that you're all doing is so important in trying to make sure that there are MIL skills available for folks. So I press even is an important step in the right direction.
Thank you, Sherri. Irene?
Yes, to complement the others, I would like to add that we should approach media and information literacy as a holistic field of study. So it's not just bits of in the typical education or training or the policy making. It should be approached holistically and not just narrowcast as disinformation, for example, because now in Greece we're entering this elections period, and we will see a lot of talk about media and information literacy, but as a partisan approach, associated mainly with disinformation. And the other thing is that the media industry and the ISP, internet service providers, OTTs, they should all engage more with MIL, not just awareness raising or corporate social responsibility, but as concrete actions to protect consumers and to create critical users of tomorrow. So as Alex said, and the other speakers, that we should talk about and see MIL in a new prisma in the metaverse. And I'm not talking about the Facebook metaverse, but in the metaverse as a new MIL intelligence skills, because now we're talking about male in traditional media, and it's already left us and gone to another reality, the metaverse reality. So thank you everyone for the invitation, and apologies for the loud noise. We are out of power here, so it's
Thank you, Irene. Alexander?
Yes, thank you so much. We have a good audience during all the event, like 50 people, keeping 50 person people all the time. So it's important. One thing that sometimes people see the things I'm doing that I post and say, oh, you are going to other spaces that are not only MIL spaces. And what I encourage all of us, they are here, we are all MIL advocates, probably, all that we are here. It's to keep one foot with high-level authorities, experts, universities, and everything, advocating, but keep the other foot networking in areas that are not related to MIL. This is very important for us as MIL advocates, penetrate areas that are not strictly to MIL. So for example, this afternoon, I'm going to the BET, you know, the BET fair in London, that educational fair of technological products in London, where they sell everything. I'm a board member of BET here in Brazil. So I'm going to the BET Council to advocate MIL within BET fair, which is not an issue for them because they like to sell gadgets. But I like to put MIL as an important thing. So I think it's important for us to circulate in areas where MIL is not the issue yet, and talk to people that are not MIL related to make the awareness greater. This is one of the things. The second thing is keep the systemic view on the thing. Not think that MIL is going to save the world, but MIL is a very important part of a quality education and an equity education that everyone has the right to have. Every kid, every youth, every adult, every other has the right to have around the world as a global issue, a global right. Yeah, since 1948 we know that. So MIL is part of that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexander. Thomas?
Thank you, Nikos, and thank you to all the audience. I think that it was a very good session today. I was like taking notes from all of you. You have very interesting projects. We've been talking about some common points, I think, and we all agree that we have to focus on when to start MIL education, how to do it with, well, not leaving other users or other public society or outside MIL. And this is a huge challenge we have. So I think just to finalize here and like to give a different point, that we need to think a different approach, maybe a multi-stakeholder approach. And when I say a multi-stakeholder approach, I think that we have to talk to the different ministries. We have to sit down with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of ICTs, and they should all talk the same language on MIL, about MIL. They should be in the same line. If we don't do that, we'll be in the same line that we are today. So the ICT ministry is enhancing digital skills, maybe cybersecurity. Sometimes the communications ministry are leading with misinformation, fake news, etc. But we have to have like an official line. And I think that this multi-stakeholder approach could be a solution, and also could be a solution to not leaving other publics aside. It's not just our students, it's not just the official education sector. We have to provide MIL for all. And I think just with this multi-stakeholder or holistic approach, as Irene was saying, that we can do this. We have to boost up or to enhance what we're doing. We are all doing a lot of stuff. We are measuring MIL, we are piloting curriculums, we are working with the civil society, we are working within schools, within universities. So we have to promote this, and I think this is the way. Thank you very much, Nikos. Thank you to all.
Thank you, Thomas. I think I couldn't have said it better in terms of wrapping up our discussion. Thank you so much to all our speakers who made time to be with us today, in spite of troublesome connection and time zones, and you still made an effort, and power cuts, and it's the same here. Thank you so much for making an effort to being with us today and for sharing your projects and your expertise. As always, I don't know whether you saw it, but in the group, in the chat, sorry, we have a link to register to become a member of DCN Global. Membership means that you just get access to, you get to know all the webinars coming up, you get access to great information, articles. The website is dcnglobal.net, and you can very easily find a way to register through the website and be part of our growing global community. We are all over the world, literally. So please also, if you know somebody who maybe would have benefited from watching or being a part of this webinar, this was live streaming onto LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. So the link is live and the link will remain there. So the video of this webinar will remain there. So please do feel free to share it. I know there was a member in the chat, Namaste Prasanna. Yes, you can watch the video on, you can watch the video on Facebook, so no need to worry about getting the recording. You can watch this again on the DCN Global Facebook page, DCN Global on all social media platforms. Thank you so much again to everybody who's joined us, and this brings us to the end of our webinar, and an awesome, I think Nikos deserves a really big silent clap from all of us. So thank you so much, Professor Nikos, for bringing us all into the same room, and also Marisela, thank you so much for contributing to the discussion. Until our very next webinar, wishing you a wonderful festive season for those of you who celebrate Christmas, and a restful December for those of you who don't, where everyone stays at home and finally you can have some peace and quiet. So until next time, we will catch you again. This was DC.